Hello, I'm very happy to be here today to share with you a little bit about the Middle East. We have had a long and very fruitful partnership with SWM, and we serve currently in the M Center in Duhok. My wife, Sunja, and I have been in the Middle East since 1995, serving the Lord. I'm hoping today that you will get a better view of what God has done and what God is doing in the Middle East, and that will encourage you to serve there as we see God's kingdom spread over all the earth. Okay, the kingdom of God and the biblical history of the world began in the Middle East. The Garden of Eden, the first sin, the story of humanity's fall, and God saving Noah, a righteous man, and his family through a flood while the whole earth was destroyed. The beginning of nations where the languages were divided at Babylon, and nations began to spread over the whole earth. And then God's call to Abraham to be a person who could bring salvation into the earth. And if we move forward, we found out that the nation of Israel failed. It was not able to obey God and his calling. And so God raised up one person from the Son of Man, from the tribe of Judah, the Son of God, Jesus Christ, who came into the world to fulfill all of God's promises given to Abraham. And then we move forward and we see what is really happening in the Middle East. So what we saw at the end, after Jesus died and was resurrected, the Christianity began, the faith in Christianity, and began to spread in the Middle East. Though it spread a lot, it never was a majority faith in the Middle East. It became a majority faith in other places, but not in the Middle East. And in 686, Muhammad was born, and he came into the Middle East, and a new sect rose, which became Islam. He had a group of Arab tribes that he was able to unite and bring together. And he was in an environment that was filled with Judaism, Jews and Christians and polytheists. And somehow he crafted a message that he said, we will obey and we will submit to Allah, the one God. And this continued on, and there was a division between the Shia and the Sunni. And I want to just move forward to the time of World War I. Actually, the Ottoman Empire had existed for 500 years. The Turks had come through Central Asia and embraced Islam, and the Muslim Ottoman Empire was weakening. And then when World War II took place, it began to split and fall apart. And what came out is what we now know and think of as the Middle East. Iraq, Lebanon, Israel, Syria, Saudi Arabia, all the countries we think of now came out of that time when it was divided and the nation states formed there. Now, I want to think a little bit about the spiritual challenges that we have in the Middle East right now. Okay, firstly, it's the Western Christians versus Islam. In the Islamic mind, Christians and the Christian world and the Western world is a threat to their existence and a threat to their views of life. So that becomes a barrier that we need to overcome because our kingdom is another kingdom. Our kingdom includes all people of all races and all nationalities. There's fighting brothers. There's a saying in Islam, you're my brother and I'm fighting with you, but when we have a common enemy, we fight together against you. So the people of Islam, when they feel a threat, then they bind together over nations and different groups. one thing we have done that has helped us to overcome some of these problems is that we've begun to work with people from other Muslim or Middle Eastern nations who are Christians, because they are closer to, and culturally they're closer, and they speak Arabic and they speak the language more than we do. Okay, so we learn. So this has given us a good way to work together, work there. And then also we can take advantage of things that we have as foreigners. I'll give you one example. Koreans are loved in the Middle East. And so when we're there, we have Korean fan club, and we have when our Korean friends come. And so that gives us a way that we can interact with people and do things with the people there and reach out to them. And maybe another one is that though Westerners sometimes are hated by people, they're also loved by people. So sometimes people are very happy to meet a European or a Westerner or an American or an Australian or somebody. And so we have a way we can really reach out to them. Now, some of the real spiritual barriers that are sometimes really hard to explain goes all the way back to Ishmael and Isaac. And Ishmael hated Isaac because Isaac was the promised and the chosen son from that God chose for Abraham, and so hatred. He mocked Isaac, and there was a hatred, and it's almost a spiritual force that's working there, and we experience that on the field. There's a blind, sometimes hatred. People don't even know why they do things. I remember talking with a taxi driver once, and he was telling me how much he hated Jewish people, and I asked him, have you ever met one? And he goes, no, I've never met one in my life. How could you hate someone you've never met? But there was this spiritual kind of a hatred. Another issue that we can, that needs to be overcome is we need to see signs, wonders, and miracles, healings, deliverances, in the Middle East. I was talking with a pastor from Baghdad, a well-known pastor, and I asked him, what do you really need here to see God work? Why is God not working in this place? And he told me, he said, this is a spiritual place. This is called spiritual Babylon, the source of all the sorceries in the earth. We need people who understand how to pray, and know how to do deliverance, and now know how to heal people, and know how to do things. So we need these things happening in the Middle East. Okay, also, just focusing on the gospel. Like, we need to focus on the gospel. And I thought about Jesus. It's very easy if you watch the news, you think what a horrible and violent and place that the Middle East can be sometimes. But think about the environment that Jesus was in. Think about the things that he had around him. He was surrounded by hostility in his ministry. And we have this, but we know that Jesus is with us. Okay? And I want to talk a little bit about some emotional barriers also that might be prevent people from thinking about going to the Middle East and working in the Middle East. Okay? The first one I want to talk about is fear and love. Okay, there's almost an opposite of fear and love. Love is our character as believers. Beloved, let us love one another, for love is of God. And God, it says God is love. So our character is love. And there is no fear in love, but perfect love conquers fear. So this is the love we have for the people. And we love because we have become children of God. This is just what we are, is love, and not fear. The fear is the opposite of love. Another fear and problem is the fear of death. All of us, by nature, we fear death. And God said, since therefore the children share flesh and blood, he himself likewise shared the same things, so that through death he might destroy the one who has the power of death, that is the devil, and free those who all their lives were held in slavery by the fear of death. So Jesus came to set us free from death. Our place is to be with Jesus and God forever. And we're all going to die one day anyways. The fear of suffering. Do not fear what you're about to suffer. Beware, the devil is about to throw some of you into prison so that you may be tested for 10 days. You will have affliction. Be faithful unto death, and I will give you the crown of life. That's Revelations 2:10. And the angel is giving a word of prophecy to John, the apostle, to the church of Smyrna. Okay? Lack of a fear of God is a hindrance. One of Job's friends, Eliphaz the Temanite, said to him in a somewhat mocking manner, is not your fear of God your confidence, and the integrity of your ways your hope? Job, look at your life. Look how messed up your life is. Look at all the disasters that come into your life, and you fear God? You know, I'm so glad that Job didn't listen to him, his friend, because Job did fear God, and he held on to his fear of God, and we know the end of that story, how God restored him and gave him more than he had before and blessed him. Okay, there are also some theological barriers. There are many views on this, but our understanding of the church and God and Israel is very critical. I'll just read a few verses. The remnant and the restoration. As regards the gospel, they, that is the nation of Israel, are enemies of God for your sake, but as regards election, they are beloved for the sake of their ancestors. Yes, in the flesh as a nation, they became the enemies of the gospel, but God loves them because he chose them and he has a plan for them. Praying for Israel and nations to be saved. For thus says the Lord of hosts, after his glory sent me, regarding the nations that plundered you, truly one who touches you touches the apple of my eye. So God is saying, I did choose Israel. Yeah, they're disciplined, they're under discipline, but I chose them, and you touch them, you touch the apple of my eye. Jesus will bring a universal restoration to Israel, and so all Israel will be saved. As it is written, out of Zion will come the deliverer. He will banish ungodliness from Jacob. It's talking about Jesus. The prophet Zechariah is talking about the coming of Jesus, who will bring restoration. He brought restoration and he brought forgiveness to the whole world, but he'll bring restoration to the nation of the Jews as well. Okay, another issue that can be a hindrance to us going is the understanding of what God is doing in mission now. God is sending people from everywhere to everywhere. It used to be some nations were going to other nations. But now God is sending people from everywhere. He's sending people from Africa and India and South America and North America and Asia. He's sending them all over the world. And he's sending them all over there. There's people from Africa coming to America to become missionaries. God is sending people from everywhere to everywhere. And also, all God's people are on mission to God. It's not just a chosen few. It's the whole church. It's every church. And it's every person, and every church is called to the mission of God to see all nations come to know Jesus. According to Joshua Project, there are 17,446 unique people groups in the world, with 7,391 of them considered unreached. That's 42% of the world's population is considered unreached. That means there's no viable witness to the gospel within those unreached nations. And the vast majority of these, 85%, are within the 1040 window, which includes a big part of that is the Middle East. And less than 3% of all missionary work is being done amongst those unreached people. So a strategy that we've developed is that we begin, though we're working to bring many people to Jesus in the place we're at, we also work together with one Egyptian sister, and she's sent from Egypt to come to our country where we live, and she's helping us because she's close culturally, she knows the language, and that's been very helpful for us. And of course, we're praying for the local people to receive the good news and build the church according to their culture and their way. Okay, I just want to say just a bit about evangelism and church planting. Christianity began in Jerusalem and spread to the Middle East. It has never been the majority religion in any Middle Eastern country. It used to be that about 13% of the people in the Middle East were Christian. And most of those were Assyrian, Eastern Orthodox, Chaldean Christian, kind of Orthodox, traditional Christians, Armenians, and others who were living there. But as of the early now there's about they estimate about 5% of the people in the Middle East are Christian people, are Christian background people. Again, most of those Orthodox, not evangelical. The Christian groups, the first Protestant churches came into the Middle East in 1833, or at least that's the first one we know of, in Jerusalem in 1833. Most traditional churches are not active in evangelism. And a 2015 study estimated that there were about almost 500,000 Christians in the Middle East who were previously Muslim. That means MBB, Muslim background believers, somebody who had been a Muslim and became a Christian. One notable fact is that in Iran, God has really worked. That they believe that there's about 1 million Muslims in Iran who have come to know Jesus, although most of that would be underground. So a key thing that we have learned since we have been in the Middle East and working with different groups is that we really want to share the good news with people, and as they become disciples, we want to see them begin to make decisions about the church. So I'm not going to bring the Western church or whatever my church background is to the church. That as we disciple them, they're going to begin to see what form the church takes. And that's what we're laboring to do in the place where we're at. So I just want to really encourage you all to go to the Middle East. I want to encourage you to prepare to go. And also I want to ask you to partner with, if God's not called you to go, to partner with those that are going through SWM or another source. And I just want to say the harvest is plentiful and the workers are few. So we're praying, and we're praying for you. And thank you for your time.